Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a pretty complex stack of source material. We've got articles, patents, old community notes, and we're going to give you that knowledge shortcut.
Exactly. So you can be instantly well-informed.
And today's deep dive, it's not really about the science of extraction. It's more about the surprisingly contested history.
Yeah, the intellectual property side of things, which is kind of ironic for a culture that was, founded on sharing.
Right.
Our mission today is to, well, if not settle, at least fully illuminate this decades-long debate over who really deserves the credit for formalizing modern cold water hash.
It sounds like a perfect case study.
Mhm.
Prior art versus formal patents.
It is. It's a classic conflict.
So let's set the scene first. We're talking mid-'80s. The basic idea, cold water separation, was already kind of circulating underground.
Oh, absolutely. And it was simple stuff. I mean, growers would stir their trim in ice water. It's just basic physics.
Yeah,
The heavy resin glands sink and the lighter plant stuff floats.
as simple as that.
Yeah. And that simple shared foundation is so key here. Because when you look at the whole story, this deep dive really pushes a critical question on you, the learner.
Which is?
What is the real difference between inventing a method, a technique that's shared freely in a community, and inventing the specific proprietary equipment that standardizes that exact same method?
Method versus machine.
That's it. That distinction is the engine driving this entire credit war.
Okay, so let's start with that prior art argument. The genesis of the technique actually becoming public.
Right. And for that, a lot of the pioneers, the old school heads, they point straight to one person, David Watson.
Better known as Skunkman Sam.
Exactly. Sam is
huh?
really the cornerstone of this pre-patent argument. What our sources all confirm is that back in, say, 1987 or 88, he took this informal technique and he actually documented it.
He didn't just talk about it, he wrote it down.
He wrote it down and sold it, a cold water how-to guide sold through a High Times mailer.
And you can't overstate how significant that is.
Right.
I mean, before that, it was just word of mouth. Could be wrong, could be right. This made it official.
It did. That mailer is, it's really highlighted as the first widely shared public guide. It took the technique out of these, anonymous local circles and turned it into a documented, repeatable process that anyone could access.
And that act of publishing is the whole legal linchpin.
It's everything. Legally, publication can establish prior art, which just means the knowledge existed publicly before any later patent could come along and claim it was new.
That makes perfect sense. But the story's a little deeper. Because Sam himself, he wasn't really claiming he invented it from scratch.
No, not at all. He was very open about that. And the historical record shows this technique was already buzzing around in the background.
Yeah.
Our sources point to the legendary breeder Nevil Schoenmakers, for instance. He openly said he learned the technique from an American guy named Mike.
So it was already international. It was circulating long before it hit High Times or, Amsterdam.
Precisely. So the argument from Sam's camp, it isn't that he discovered ice or water. It's that he formalized the specific sequence.
Cold water, agitation, settling, screening.
All of it. And then, crucially, he published it. He created a timestamp that proves the fundamental method was public and free years before anyone tried to monetize the IP.
That's a powerful defense.
It's the core of the prior art defense. The knowledge was out there, shared freely. But as we start to move into the late 1990s, the whole conversation, it just shifts dramatically.
Yeah, the industry starts to see commercialization on the horizon.
And the focus moves from, how do I make this in a bucket in my garage, to how do we make this with industrial precision?
And that pivot toward industrial repeatability. That's where Swiss-American inventor Reinhard Delph steps right into the spotlight.
Right, late 90s. He comes in with a concept designed for scale.
And this is where we really leave the kitchen behind. We're talking engineered hardware now. His system was called the ice-cold extractor.
It even sounds like something from a lab, not a garden shed. And it was a whole different beast. You have to picture a stainless steel, purpose-built conical tank. It's sealed. And instead of just, stirring it with a drill.
Which is what a lot of people were doing.
Oh, yeah. Delph introduced a system that used controlled, pressurized air bubbles for the agitation.
Wait, air bubbles? That seems like a small detail, but why is that so important technically?
It's the innovation. Because simple stirring, especially with the power drill, is actually pretty violent. It can shear and break the resin heads, which introduces more plant contaminants, and it can even oxidize the product.
To lower quality.
Much lower. The pressurized air bubbles, though, That was a gentler, far more controlled way to agitate. This meant better yields, cleaner separation, and this is the most important part for the future perfect repeatability. It allowed a brand to say, batch 5 is going to be identical to batch 55.
And that kind of consistency. That's everything if you're trying to build a regulated market. So Delph patents this design. He shows it off at the cannabis cup.
Yep, he positions it as the first formal, standardized extraction machine. And that, of course, leads directly to the conflict.
Of course.
Delph's supporters, they'll argue that, look, he didn't invent separating resin with water. He didn't have to. What he invented was the hardware and the specific process that made it commercially viable.
He took it out of the DIY sphere.
Right. He formalized it with unique parts, like that controlled airflow.
But I can just imagine the tension that created. You're an old-school grower. You learned this from Sam's mailer a decade ago.
And now you see someone basically claiming ownership over the core process through a machine patent.
Yeah.
And that feeling of, betrayal, it's really palpable in the source material. Critics felt Delph was just putting a legal fence around community knowledge.
They felt the fundamentals were already public domain.
Thanks to Sam and Mike and whoever else came before, they saw his patents as just overlapping with this open source knowledge, and it really highlights this ethical tightrope you see in any emerging industry.
Does making something standard excuse, appropriating a community technique?
That's the question. So you have these two powerful clashing ideas. On one side, the pioneer who published the free guide, establishing the method.
And on the other, the engineer who built the proprietary machine, establishing the system.
So as this whole debate over Delph's patents versus Sam's prior art is, really reaching a fever pitch.
There's another innovation happening at the same time.
A concurrent one, yeah. And this one shifts the focus completely. It's not about bulk extraction anymore. It's about refinement.
This is where we get into the third crucial pillar of the story.
The specialized filtration systems, better known as the bag systems.
And there are two huge names here that really push product quality forward. Mila Jansen, who brought us the Ice-O-Lator system.
And subsequently, Bubbleman with his licensed bubble bag system.
So the big leap here wasn't the water or the agitation. It was something else.
Right. They often use much simpler agitation methods. The real game changer was the introduction of multi-screen extraction. This allowed producers to filter the resin through a series of bags, and each bag had a different micron-size screen.
Okay, so technically this means instead of just getting one big mixed batch of resin at the end,
you could grade it, you could sort it by quality.
Can you walk us through what that actually means for the final product?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. The earliest techniques just gave you everything all mixed together in one pile.
Good, bad, ugly. All of it.
All of it. The multi-screen bags, though, they let you isolate the absolute highest quality resin, the stuff people call full melt or 6-star. That's typically what you catch in the 73 and 90 micron bags.
And the other bag.
Well, the larger screens, like a 120 or 160 micron, they catch bigger particles and lower grade resin. And the really small screens at the bottom just catch tiny bits of plant debris. It's a sorting system for purity.
That's fascinating. It completely reframed the goal. It wasn't just about extracting anymore.
No, it was about refining and grading the product, creating something that was truly a premium, marketable product.
So Mila and Bubbleman's contributions were really about quality control.
Precisely. They sort of took Delph's focus on industrial scale and bolted on this obsession with elite purity. But of course, their success only made the existing community tensions more complicated.
So now it's a three-way tug-of-war for who gets the credit.
Exactly. You've got Sam's foundational method, Delph's standardized hardware, and the bag system's superior refinement, all vying for that title of original innovator.
Okay, so let's try to bring this synthesis home for everyone listening. Our source material really lays out two central opposing claims that just dominate this whole story.
Right. Claim 1 is all about the importance of prior art. Sam's supporters, they emphasize that late 80s documentation, the deep underground roots.
The core idea was public.
It was public, proving the method existed long before any legal claim was staked.
And claim 2, which is pushed by Delph's advocates, it rests entirely on the hardware.
Yep. They basically argue that without his engineered, patented machine, the whole process would have just stayed a high-variability kitchen experiment. It was standardization and repeatability that pushed the industry forward.
And it's so important to understand why this debate is still, a thing today.
It is. Our sources really highlight that when modern brands or writers talk about their own history, their lineage, they often just pick one of these paths to emphasize.
So a small craft brand might focus only on the prior art from Sam.
And downplay the industrialization part, and then a big commercial operation might do the opposite, right? They'll emphasize Delph's engineered systems and kind of gloss over the informal community origins.
That selection bias is what keeps the fight alive.
It's what keeps the historical dispute going in the public mind, yeah.
So what's the balanced conclusion we should walk away with for someone trying to be genuinely well-informed who wins?
The answer is, none of them. All of them. The ultimate conclusion, when you connect all these sources, is that modern solventless hash is a direct result of 3 separate, layered, and absolutely crucial contributions. You just can't have the modern industry without all 3.
So we have to recognize the foundational knowledge, the standardizing hardware, and the refinement tools, all equally.
That's the full picture.
Well,
First, you have that foundational shared cold water knowledge that was established by pioneers like Skunkman Sam and that unnamed American.
method?
Second, you have the critical step of standardization through engineered hardware like Delph's Extractor. That allowed for scale and repeatability.
The machine.
And third, you have the superior refinement from the advanced bag systems pioneered by Mila, Jansen, and Bubbleman.
And the quality.
Exactly. That full 3-part lineage, the method, the machine, and the quality, that is the true origin story.
Wow. That was truly a journey through intellectual property history.
Yeah.
From just, informal ice water stirring in the mid-'80s.
All the way through a controversial period of patented extractors.
Right up to the refined multi-screen bags that really dominate the craft market today. I think we learned that being well-informed on this topic means understanding that credit is, it's rarely owed to just one person.
It's a continuous layering of innovation, and it's almost always built on a foundation of community knowledge.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the final provocative thought that this debate between Sam's community method and Delph's industrial patents raises for you, the learner.
Let's hear it.
In any emerging industry, especially one that's rooted in these informal shared practices, when does that existing community knowledge cross this invisible line and become a formal, legally protected, patentable invention? And maybe more importantly, what responsibility do the formal innovators have to acknowledge the pioneers who built the free, open-source foundation that their own commercial success is built on?
A tension that is definitely still defining innovation today.